after hearing what Father shared with us in those articles about the satanic, whorehouse, House of Horrors, that's opening up in Detroit, supposedly, who did not have a sick stomach in hearing those things. And it burdens our spirit. However, we must keep in mind that we are in the time of God's great mercy, and anything can change on a dime. If people turn away from their sins, repent, and follow our Lord Jesus Christ. Now, when we hear things like that, we like to point at that and say, those terrible people, what horrible things they're doing and what's happening. What I believe is that if it's true what they're saying, which I highly doubt, but whatever, about not having animal sacrifices and such, well, we know that part of the work is to desecrate the Holy Eucharist and so on and so forth. But they don't have to have animal sacrifices, because we have already wiped out more than a generation with human sacrifice by way of abortion. Our own families, even our conversations with our children about, you've had 3 children now, you've got 5 children. Don't you think that's enough? You need to get fixed. You need to do something about that. I've heard it so many times in conversations, even at weddings with people sitting at the same table, contracepting. We are all part of that human sacrifices being made. They don't need to get animals and do that. We're doing it with human beings. And whenever we can say, you need to take the pills or go on something not to have anymore, this isn't a good time or whatever, not even considering that the very Spirit of God, in His plan for all of us and for the world, is being intercepted every single time we have a human sacrifice. By saying to our children and to our friends, just go on the pill, it's easier. Turn our heads when somebody says something about contraception or living together. Even gay marriage. Turning our heads and thinking, I have to love that person. Yes, we have to love the people. We're all sinners. Not one of us is above sin. But like the years before us, thousands of years before us, each time Our Lady has come, or a saint revealed, a prophet, a mystic, that God is calling us to turn away from sin, it's not just about saying 3 Hail Marys and making the sign of the cross. It's about turning away from sin and repenting and not being silent anymore. We're in a whole different time in our world. When soccer games or basketball practice takes precedence over catechism or even Sunday Holy Mass, when we can point fingers at our priests because they abuse everybody, as the media would like us to think, when one is too many. But when the count is done, when the statistics are truthfully told, it's a very minute number in comparison to what's going on in the Protestant churches. Minute. Still inexcusable. Every time we dissuade our children from a vocation, or don't even talk about it or suggest it, but we have no qualms asking or persuading them strongly, be a doctor, or a lawyer, or an Indian chief. Anything but. That's for other people's children to do. Because I want grandchildren. I can stand here and say this. I have 3 daughters and a son in heaven. He's in Blessed Mother's hands. But I can stand here and say this because I tried. All 3 of my daughters were called to married life. There was not a question about that. I would have loved, and I tried my best. It just didn't happen in my own family. I don't know what God's plan is for that. But they're very devout women and have beautiful families. But they certainly are raising their children with that possibility, that strong suggestion about following God. Over and again, even these past weeks, talking to friends about how their friend's grandchild is making their first Holy Communion, and their children's children are not making their communion because they want them to be of age to decide for themselves what religion they want to belong to, where they feel, if they feel. But my goodness, if you would suggest to them not to go to school, or not to take up a computer class or an extra language, or have math tutoring on something else, let them decide for themselves what they feel called to when they get to be 18. Oh no, it's already planned by the time they're in middle school. What classes they should begin planning in high school for their careers. And look where we're at today. Look at the state of things. It's not just about the people who are following Satan in that article. It's about us. How many times we've turned our heads, and how many times even at dinner parties or family gatherings or at the dinner show or wherever we're at, people bring up things like that. They're living together, hopefully they'll get married, they have a child. The movie stars are living a certain way, they're doing whatever, and it seems to be the way, but beyond me to say anything because I'm afraid that they won't talk to us. So don't let them talk to you. Show them as parents and grandparents you disapprove because you love them and they deserve better. Not to be taken advantage of or used over and again. And what business do 11, 12, 13, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds have dating? 14-year-olds. What are they doing? They're not playing cards. Take a look at the way they're dressed. And even talking about that, how many children, how many young adults, if they come to church, in tank tops and short shorts. Oh my gosh, how many times I saw this summertime. Short shorts, tank tops, standing right there next to their parents. And even having heard them say, hey, you know what, at least they're in church, I'm not going to say anything. Shame on you. Shame on you. That you cannot say, as for me and mine, we will follow the Lord. And by golly, you better dress like a young lady or a young man. Brush your teeth and brush your hair. Shape up. That's what the kids are missing today. That's what our young adults are lacking. The direction from parents. That direction is not force. That direction is love. And it's a holy obligation. And for fathers to stand up. No man with any brain in his head would allow a neighbor or somebody to come to his front door and say, give me the keys to your car, I want to take you for a ride. And yet they said, let me take your daughter out for a ride. And there's like, I can't say anything about that. I don't want to infringe, and then I got to argue with my wife, and what's wrong with us? How did this happen to us? When did we become so desensitized to the presence of evil? Okay, so you hear that. We know that. What do we do about that? We stand up because we are in the time of God's great mercy. It takes one movement from the finger of God to change everything. Our Lady's duty is to crush the head of Satan, but we have to open the door to her. We have to hang her image in our home and the Divine Mercy image in our home. And yes, we have to pray. How many are aware that this weekend our bishop is going to be having Holy Mass for us at St. Veronica's Church and then processing, walking to the 2 abortion clinics nearby? Our shopping list can wait until later in the day. Our family gatherings, whatever, can wait. If we make the stand and we say it's important that we follow and that we take a stand publicly, we must be public. We must make a bold stroke in our times. We must speak up and be silent no more. Or our children, our grandchildren, our families are going to continue to be eaten up bite by bite in the colleges. The messages that they're getting, they're being taught by the professors, the people who know. It's to take down the faith and any kind of remnant of it. Literally, I know this, I experienced it myself. It's no secret. So why do we feel we have to send them off to those situations? I don't know. I think we all just need to rethink things and start to make our own demands in our families. You know, my dad used to say to us kids growing up, as long as your feet are swinging underneath this table, this is how it's done. We never dared to say, I want to swing out there, Dad. No, we didn't even dare to say that because it wasn't going to happen. But you know something? There wasn't a day in my life that I doubted that my father and my mother loved me. None of the three of us. I don't know, she favors my middle brother better. But anyway. Just kidding. It was never a doubt. I couldn't wear any makeup until my father said so. I was in 10th grade, I think, when everybody else had been wearing it for years because he felt I was too beautiful. You're so beautiful, naturally. You know what that said to me? It didn't change my desire to want to wear makeup in junior high school. I still wanted to be like everybody else and all the girls with all those compact things. But when I looked at my father, I saw a man who worshiped me as his little girl, his daughter, and he would give his life for me, just keep me safe and protected. I felt loved, even though we didn't agree. Someplace in my heart I knew he was right. We had many debates, discussions, but he always won. And my mother taught me how to be a young lady. You don't wear short skirts, disgraceful. You don't wear things that are unbecoming to a young lady. When you bend down, you should not see cleavage. When you scoot down, you should not see butt crack. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I find it very offensive. I don't want to see that. And yet it all hangs out. And we hang it out in church too, even before the throne of God. Not realizing what kind of a temptation it's leading to other people, men and women. We are taking part in that culture of death every time we don't speak up, or every time we tell our kids, you know, that's enough, kids. Go on something, take care of yourself, get fixed, or we don't say anything at all when those kinds of comments come up. What are we afraid of? Because in the end, God is going to ask us. You know that question? What you did to the least of my brothers, when you fed them, when you drank, when you did whatever, you clothed them, that's going to come up too. Remember that when your kids were sitting there and you told them to get fixed or to take something, or too many kids, or Oh no, for God's sake, don't become a priest or a nun. Be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a teacher or something. You're going to be so lonely, and besides, celibacy is impossible. Yeah, right, it is. If you're sending your 11-year-old out on dates and you're not saying anything about the provocative clothing that they're wearing, yeah, right. But for those who are focused on having a healthy, happy, normal, godly, good, fulfilling life, chastity is very possible and desirable. There's a call. We're leaving God out of this quotient. The world will have us think that everything is gloom and doom and there's no hope. But that's never been the case. Mary, our Blessed Mother, has come to us time and time again throughout the history of the church to give us those directives. And we want something simple. We want to let's just say 3 Hail Marys. And everything will be fine. Well, that's not the way it is anymore. Yes, we have to say the rosary with 3 Hail Marys, whatever it is, and extra masses and adorations. But we have to make a bold stand in the times that we are in. And we don't know what the future is or what. But we can have hope because we know that there will be peace in this time of His mercy. I was led to a particular quote in the Diary of St. Faustina, Notebook 3, entry 1052, that says, "Oh my Jesus, I beg you on behalf of the whole church, grant it love and light of your Spirit, and give power to the words of priests. God, how our lives and our families, my whole generation would be so different if instead of the gauzy, fuzzy, fluffy crap that we heard, we would hear about chastity and obedience and humility and poverty of spirit, if we were taught the things that my parents were taught back in the day. We missed out. Grant it love and light of your Spirit, and give power to the words of priests, so that hardened hearts might be brought to repentance and return to you, O Lord. Lord, give us holy priests. You yourself maintain them in holiness. O divine and great high priest, may the power of your mercy accompany them everywhere, and protect them from the devil's traps and snares, which are continually being set for the souls of priests. May the power of your mercy, O Lord, shatter and bring to naught all that might tarnish the sanctity of priests, for you can do all things. We are called to pray for our priests. We are called to pray for new priests. We are called to be a voice to encourage others in that vocation of being a priest or a religious. Have you ever been, I'm just asking you a question. Have you ever been to Holy Mass and they ran out of Holy Communion? They ran out of Eucharist? Raise your hand, I'm just curious to see. How many people encountered that? They ran out of the hosts. Okay. So, of course, the precious blood you could still receive. But how did you feel when there was no more Eucharist? I mean, even though the precious blood it's God present to us. But wasn't that just devastating? I mean, imagine having to wait a year for Holy Communion. This is a reality. Imagine having to wait. We must pray for our priests. We must pray for continued new vocation. We must get out of this mentality of the culture of death and be a light in this time. Pray for them. Pray for in holy adoration for new vocations. Encourage them, help them. Look how encouraged Father was when Sister came up and said to him, I support you. I will support you in what you're saying. I've been going to his parish, St. Isaac Jogues, for the past several months. And I have to say, he has no fear. And I'm impressed. He has no fear. He calls it like it is, and he's not afraid. And it's very encouraging, Because for those of us that know that, or we know it in our spirit, the truth of what's going on in the church, and we hear it affirmed by the priest, who is the shepherd representing Christ to us, who brings us Christ, it gives us great strength and encouragement to go out into the world and do what we're called to do as parents, daughters, sons, etc. People of God, holy laity. God promised, from this holy laity will come a royal priesthood. Strong. And that's what we need. We need more St. Clare's and St. Francis's and all the godly saints that we had in the past that helped to encourage us on these journeys that we're on these days, in our family situation. And like our Holy Father says, be not afraid. Satan tells you, you will lose your family, you will lose those friends, you will lose. Jesus says the opposite. Be not afraid. We are losing them because we are silent. And God is calling us to be silent no more. As for me and mine, we will follow the Lord. And that's the way that it is. And if you don't like it, too darn bad. But I'm mom and you're dad, and that's the way that it goes. All the good seeds that you have suffered and planted in your family and in friendships will pay off. And those that walk away, even in the time of Jesus Christ, they walked away from him. And there's nothing we can do about that. So it's up to you, and it's up to me to be strong. We have an obligation to learn about our faith, to learn about the things that we heard about today, to do what St. Faustina says, and to be encouraging to others for vocations, to get the heck off the fence and walk the walk, even if it's martyrdom. God bless you. God bless all of us. God bless our families, our churches, our priests, and the new vocations that God will raise up in our times. Thank you for being here today.